what is the part of you that hears these conversations and feels relief? That's the thing. When I pick up a book and I find a book that says something that I so deeply resonate, I feel relief. But then after the relief, I feel this itch of like, oh, I gotta make something. It's like this contagious inspiration of like, yes. What do I do with it? I feel urgency around wrapping my brain around what the fuck I'm obsessed with, because I can't define it, but it is undeniable. I am possessed by it. Yes. Now what? So I ask you, if this makes you feel like, oh, yes, yeah, yes, yes, yes. Now what? Is there something that you're trying to pull yourself against your own current? What is your current? What is the natural flow of your energy and your love and your inspiration, your life force? Where does that carry you if you just float with it? Where does it carry you? Help Me See is a podcast dedicated to the art of seeing. It's a space for the restless visionary with an insatiable desire to create the life and work you're meant for. My name is Bianca Leah Mora, and I'm a photographic artist, a mother, and a coach who's transformed my fear of loss into power, art, and philosophy. One of the scariest quotes I never want to say is, I wish I knew at the time. But I truly believe that we have the innate ability to bring our wise 20/20 hindsight to our now. You can deeply experience your nostalgia now while it's actually happening with no regrets. All you have to do is see. In this show, we laugh, we cry, we get inspired, we overshare. We have life-changing conversations around making meaning, self-discovery, and shedding all of the BS layers in order to reconnect to our own sacred vision. Seeing yourself is an essential key to living powerfully. You are the vessel, the lens that filters absolutely everything in your life. What are you filtering for? Whether it be conversations with fellow artists and visionaries or my solo audio journal style introspective ramblings, each episode is meant to feel like an exhale, an unraveling of truth, a moment for you to be able to put your finger on something that you haven't been able to for far too long. Come exactly as you are. It's perfect. Honor your instincts. Let's uncover some of the most important things in our lives, which all too often can slip out from our view. Let's commit to seeing and consciously creating what only you can in your one and only life. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another episode of Help Me See. It is 5:45 in the morning. My dog has been vomiting for the last 2 hours. And I've decided to stop reading my book and come here to talk about how unintentionally hypocritical I can be. So yesterday, I was restless, and it was my time allotted to record a podcast episode, and I just didn't feel like talking. It was actually the first time ever that I was like, I actually don't have anything that I feel like saying right now. And if you know me at all, you know I'm not in the business of forcing anything. So I was like, well, I guess, in the past, it's been like almost 4 years, right, since I've had the podcast, and I've missed a week or so based on, literal like personal life stuff, logistics, but never for lack of something to say. And I'm certainly not going to just force myself to say something. I'm not going to create something unless it feels like truth. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go to this bookstore that I've been wanting to go to. I've been there before, but it's been a long time. And last time I was there with my youngest, who was screaming and licking the cart as I was pushing him. Anyway, so I got a bunch of books and I'm reading one of them. It is Mary Oliver, A Poetry Handbook, a prose guide to understanding and writing poetry. So I start reading this book and I just can't get over how in love I am with, when I get used books, the writing from previous people. It feels so intimate and so private, it almost feels wrong for me to be reading their notes. It's so interesting because I'm someone that I need to underline as I read. Absolutely need to. Otherwise, I can't comprehend it. I guess it's kind of like taking pictures in a moment. Like, it's like a way of comprehending something more deeply. Like, as I'm reading, if it's something important, I'm like underlining, and it's like synthesizing in a way. I don't know. If you know, you know. And so it's really interesting to see like what another person underlined versus what I would underline and where that overlap is. And you begin to have this like kind of relationship or I don't know, as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh yes, of course you underline that. I don't know, it almost kind of makes me want to cry. It's just really beautiful. And, I thought it was interesting because I'm reading these words of this book. Obviously, I'm a similar person-ish, right? I bought this book and this person has already read this book. All I keep thinking about when I'm reading these notes, and also beautiful handwriting. If anyone had books with my handwriting in the margins, they'd be like, what the fuck is this psycho saying? Like, I can't even read my own writing. Like, one of the notes is like, get acquainted with poets of the past, or like an exclamation point next to something, or words were initially created to reflect realities through their sounds. I love witnessing how someone's brain works, and moreover, I start thinking about, oh, how beautiful. Of all the things this person could be reading or doing, they're reading about poetry and like the earnest like underlining and triple underlining and bracketing and circling. And then I think, as I'm marveling over this person that I have no idea who it is, you hypocrite. You're reading this book. You're one that underlines. Have you ever marveled at yourself? At the magnificence and innocence and beauty of your efforts and craving in taking in a poetry book? One of the quotes in this book says, of the book, it is written to empower the beginning writer who stands between two marvelous and complex things, an experience or an idea or a feeling, and the urge to tell about it in the best possible conjunction of words. So I read that, and then I start thinking, beautifully put, yes. And I immediately equate it to photographs. An experience or an idea or a feeling, and the urge to tell about it in a picture. Okay, interesting. And then I spiraled into thinking, why do I keep wanting to talk around the process instead of creating something? It's a very specific thing that I've been frustrated with myself about. I can't stop wanting to talk about the experience of the work and the consumption and the metabolizing of these ideas, but from the outside. And it feels wrong. It feels like, well, I should be doing the thing. Why am I reading about poetry instead of writing poetry? Why am I talking more about photographic practice instead of creating a book? Like, just do the work, create the work. But that is so, once again, hypocritical to what I believe to be true, which is like, honor your fucking impulse. I don't believe that there's this inner working, like, hidden worthiness issue or avoidance of my work. I do have a craving to, like, create more physical things. Like, I want to commit to making a book of the work, and in the past I've just completely glazed over it because so much of the work I do is just never ending, so it doesn't ever feel like a good time. It's just all forever. And but I also want to give it a special place. But also, I can't force the fact that it doesn't feel urgent. It feels urgent. What is urgent to me is this pile of books next to me. Let's talk about the books. I have The Way Under the Way by Mark Nepo. It's a poetry book. I have also this poetry handbook by Mary Oliver. I have The Amazing Laws of Cosmic Mind Power by Joseph Murphy. Just talking about the subconscious. I have Solitude, A Return to the Self by Anthony Storr. What else do I have? Oh, the book I'm leaning on right now. And I have The Inkblots, Herman Rorschach, His Iconic Test, and the Power of Seeing. Okay. My impulse to go to the store and pick out of this whole store thousands of books, these books. What if I pretend that I'm that wonderful person that I'm singing the praises of, that wrote the margins in the book? What would I say about that person if I knew that these were the books that she bought? I'm trying to unlock my ability to soften to myself and to respect my impulse the same way I believe through my bones that you should respect yours, and open up to what I'm trying to, not what I'm trying to do, to what I am doing, and recognize it in the power that it has, because that's what this is about. I'm also listening to an audiobook by, it's like co-written by this psychologist, Phil Stutz. And they talk about life force energy and overcoming this X factor that's inhibiting us and draining our life force, and resisting the impulse to withdraw and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I found myself like feeling that defensive feeling and, not wanting to be in that like confirmation bias thing. Like, no, that doesn't align with what I believed it to be true. So I like let myself go into thinking about it. And I'm like, no, the impulses are the key to recognizing everything good and bad. Good and bad. It's in the witnessing of the impulses and being aware of our impulses, whether or not they are serving. That is where our insights lie. That is where our understanding of ourselves arises. And when we're able to see ourselves in that way, then we can move through it, away from it, into it, whatever it is. So anyway, okay, keep with me here. I'm just following this thread that's going to God knows where. One of the reviews on the back of this book says, "Who knew? The founding lines of psychoanalysis often seem as petty as they were at times brilliant, but to hear Damien Searles tell it in this absorbing new biography, Herman Rorschach was a different sort altogether, humane, empathetic, loving, deeply sane, and possessed of a true artist's soul. Searles' account of Rorschach's afterlife is no less fascinating, as every culture that encountered his test seemed to project its own values onto it. In the end, true to Rorschach, Searles locates the heart of being human at the endlessly unfurling intersection of vision and self-awareness." And I read that and I think, all of these seemingly disparate pieces, these different books, all of this, all that, I'm responding to what is me outside in the world. I see that and I'm like, oh yes, that. I'm looking to scratch this itch of like acquiring the breadcrumbs and the nuggets to be able to give myself the ability to wrap my mind around what I want to be wrapping my mind around. And I think in the past, I've felt insecure about it, as if I'm trying to validate myself, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, wanting to validate yourself. And I feel like validating yourself through your art and your photographs is a really healthy, beautiful way to do that. But not only is it helpful and expansive to look outside of yourself to acquire knowledge and understanding of what's been done in the past and be able to formulate what is so deeply pulling at you, but it's also an opportunity, an invitation to love yourself. I think about that. I haven't even started this book and I think, what a fucking badass. And the inside cover says it shines a light on the 20th century's most visionary synthesis of art and science. What an amazing thing to do. And then I think, how am I different? How am I less than that? I'm not. I'm doing my own synthesis. I'm just in it. So what are you craving to synthesize? What are you, I don't know, it's like a blind spot. It's like the glare and sun in your eyes, and it's so strong that you're missing a certain spot of view. Like for me, I'm sitting here believing to my core that when we trust our instinct and move with our impulse, there's this undeniable self-actualization available for us. There's this understanding of and reverence for our place in the world. And I know that my craft, even though it is essential to my life, it is also not the center of what I want to do. And that feels a little strange, but also I know it. I know it in the way I recoil when someone assumes, oh, you're that I'm a photographer. I mean, I am a photographer, but just my reaction to the label, it's like, of course, I'm obsessed with photographers. I love photographers. I am a photographer. But when someone buckets me like that, I'm like, but my heart is in a slightly different place. And I don't know what I want to be called. I don't care really what to be called. But I know that it's not just about the pictures for me. It's about the synthesizing of more. I'm still uncovering like the crux of like this intersection of wellness, of love, of living life the best way we can through this art that's accessible to anyone. Breaking down these boundaries and barriers and hierarchical bullshit of good art, good pictures. There's also a book on the back of this. Oh, that same guy. Yeah. So the guy that wrote that quote that I just read about the intersection of vision and self-awareness, his name is Lawrence Weschler, and it says author of Seeing is Forgetting the Name of the Thing One Sees. Like, well, I certainly need to pick up that book. But yeah. Anyway, all that to say, I waste energy silently, subconsciously shaming myself for not creating more, like doing more with the work. Like, okay, I have billions of photos. What do I do with it? Like, I don't feel urgency around making a book. I would like to. I feel urgency around wrapping my brain around what the fuck I'm obsessed with, because I can't define it, but it is undeniable. I am possessed by it. What is that for you? That interesting, specific, insidious nuance of, is there something that you're like, I should be doing this? Why am I not doing this? And like trying to pull yourself against your own current. What is your current? What is the natural flow of your energy and your love and your inspiration, your life force? Where does that carry you if you just float with it? Where does it carry you if we get rid of that narrative of like, work hard, had to commit, have to blah, blah, blah. What is that natural current of enthusiasm? That natural current of your life force. The things when you feel flat like I did. I'm like, I don't feel like recording a podcast. I don't have anything to say right now. What do you go and do when that's the case? I didn't feel like doing anything related to work. In fact, I set up a pond to go get a fiction book because I need to read more fiction. I read no fiction. None. I mean, other than, no, I mean, I guess none. Does poetry qualify as fiction. I mean, I guess. No, I don't know. I'm probably a whole separate genre. Anyway. But yeah, it's just this undeniable draw to something. My last podcast and last post, if you were on, a side note, all of my podcast episodes, well, I'm going to say all, because if there's a time in which I don't feel like a podcast episode calls for a Substack post, I'm just not going to do it. But so far, since I started Substack a month and a half ago, all of my podcast episodes have an accompanying visual element, and that is on Substack. And also on Substack, I have a membership tier where you can monthly get my templates for Nostalgia Now, where we do all of this like introspective self-discovery work with our photographs in a monthly intentional living guided template. It's really awesome. I'm obsessed with the ritual and the commitment of seeing my life in this way every month. And I know that this practice will inevitably lead to living the life I'm meant for, preventing me from getting distracted and swayed by noise. If you're interested in learning more, click on the link in the podcast or in the show notes, and you'll find the Substack. You'll see photographs that I pair with the writings from the show and all that. But going back to the magical person that wrote the notes in this book, the admiration and the love I have for this person because of the few random scribbles that she made in this book that she read and underlined. She, he, I don't know. Who knows? Why am I saying she? Could be a man. I don't know. It is important to allow yourself to step outside of yourself and witness your efforts in life. Look at your photos like this. Look at your tendencies like this. Witness those pulls. Witness that life force current. That if you did nothing to strong arm or effort your way into X, Y, or the other thing, where does that go? And I'm not saying don't ever exert yourself. Don't ever, try super hard for whatever. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying get curious about the most ease-filled, good energy, inspiring place where you naturally drift to. What does that tell you? I'm not wrong. I'm not a bad artist. I'm not a fraud. I'm not for being so obsessed with talking about the practice rather than doing the work. That has been something in past episodes that I've talked about, feeling this deep-seated fear of like redundancy and like the work should speak for itself. So why do you keep over-explaining? And why are you, what are some of the narratives that I have? Like stating the obvious or blah, blah. It's like, shut the fuck up. Why? What a waste of energy questioning my life force. I think that should be the bow that we tie up this episode with, is journal on photographically, compiling pictures, or writing, preferably both. What is my life force current? When you think of that feeling of like just your life force, that natural enthusiasm and energy and glowy, warm love feeling, where does that current take you? Where does it take you? And two, in what ways are you questioning, resisting, avoiding that? And how can you eliminate that energy drain? Before I recorded this episode this morning, this episode will go out this morning, like this afternoon, whatever. Because yesterday when I didn't feel like I was going to record an episode, I was like, you know what I should do? I should start a creation. So I was going to do like an audio scape, because I love multimedia and I love working with sound, and I do have some projects that I want to work on that involve sound. And I was like, I'm just gonna put a rough draft of a soundscape out there, and like an experimentation, which still sounds cool and I still might do it. But it felt flat. I couldn't do it because I'm like, I don't feel an urgency to get that out. It felt like, oh yeah, cool. Like showing a first draft of something and like opening that conversation, and I could rationalize why that would be a cool exercise. But every single time I get behind this mic and talk about something, like there's this place that I go to in my soul where I just feel like I have to say this. I have to say this. Well, I don't care if I'm just saying it to myself. One person hears it, 100 people hear it. I have to say this. Because not saying this feels like a decaying betrayal of my soul. Putting out an experimentation on a creative project didn't feel like that. I'll probably do that when it does feel like that. But I don't know. I'm just really glad that I trusted my instincts and got to this conversation, because it feels like really healing for me. I hope that it's helpful for you. This whole podcast production, like this ritual of doing this week after week, is like another attempt at deepening my trust for my voice and my conviction in myself, and my love for myself, really. And I hope that these very unplanned, very personal ramblings speak to the part of you that you might dismiss. Like, what is the part of you that hears these conversations and feels relief? That's the thing. When I pick up a book and I find a book that says something that I so deeply resonate, I feel relief. But then, after the relief, I feel this itch of like, oh, I gotta make something. It's like this contagious inspiration of like, yes, now what? So I ask you, if this made you feel like, oh, yes, yeah, yes. Now what? Now what? I would love to know what. You can find me on Instagram at Bianca Leah Mora, and also follow along on Substack. If you are not familiar with Substack, it is a magical place that I have been spending a lot of time in recently. So subscribe to Substack. You can do that for free, and you will get the visual podcast episodes in your inbox so you can read them if you don't feel like listening to me. And also, if you want to become a paid subscriber, then you get your monthly one-of-a-kind guided, prompted photographic journaling templates for self-introspection and reflection on your life. And there is a founding member tier that comes with a private remote virtual shoot with me, which is its own breed of super special, interesting amazingness. And I will be transferring my flagship courses, Manifest Your Memories, Harnessing Your Life Vision for Living Intentionally, in there. And I will also be adding my Conscious Creator course in there as well over the next few weeks. And I envision that to be the space that I just ongoing create courses. And if you become that yearly membership, you will get access to whatever courses that I create in there. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for spending your time here. I cannot wait to see what comes of this. Now I have a lot of puke to clean up all over my house. And poor dog. Okay. Have a great day. Hope you're not cleaning up any puke.
This has been an Awkward Sage production.